cell phones, iPads, laptops, Apple Watches, Google Glasses, all of the tech around us. It is extremely powerful. It's not good or bad in that sense. It's how we use it, like any human innovation or any human tool. So this conversation, I believe, is one of the most important conversations on the planet. And I say this because the biggest existential threat to humanity is the health, well-being, and connection of this current generation. And if we don't have that, who's going to solve climate change and food shortage? And we're seeing major disruptions in the health, well-being, and connection, the curiosity, the critical thinking of this generation because of unregulated technology use.
Welcome to Education Charter. My name is Daniel Wiśniewski, and today I'm with a very good speaker. I have with me Dr. Shimi Kang, who is an award-winning psychiatrist from Harvard, who has been he's the author of best-selling books specializing in tech and the use of tech in schools. Shimi, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Daniel. I look forward to the conversation.
So, Dr. Kang, you're the expert, you're the psychiatrist, you're the person who is supposed to tell us whether technology is actually good for our kids. There's lots of discussion about it. In many countries, we are actually pressing and putting more and more tech into the schools. What's your take on it? Is technology good or not?
Great question, Danielle. So I'm going to speak as a psychiatrist who's been specializing in the young brain for over 25 years. My background is in addiction psychiatry. That's what I studied at Harvard. And so I really learned deeply about the motivation of the human brain, and particularly the brain under the age of 25, which is a very special brain. In addition to that, I'm a mother of 3 teenagers myself, and I do teach at the university. I'm a professor at UBC, University of British Columbia, and I love tech. I love these kinds of conversations that we're having. I couldn't live without it. So first, we have to really understand the power of technology right now. In my book, The Tech Solution, which I have right here, I open the book with the analogy that technology is the fire of our time. What I mean by that, there was a moment in human history when our ancestors used the power of fire. Those that did it well went further and farther than ever before. Those that didn't got burnt and burned down the village. That is exactly what we're seeing with these devices: cell phones, iPads, laptops, Apple Watches, Google Glasses, all of the tech around us. It is extremely powerful. It's not good or bad in that sense. It's how we use it, like any human innovation or any human tool. So this conversation, I believe, is one of the most important conversations on the planet. And I say this because the biggest existential threat to humanity is the health, well-being, and connection of this current generation. And if we don't have that, who's going to solve climate change and food shortage? And we're seeing major disruptions in the health, well-being, and connection, the curiosity, the critical thinking of this generation because of unregulated technology use. So we can do better. We can use what's called a tech diet idea to really understand the power of this device.
Let me be the devil's advocate, though. I'm a parent myself, and as a parent, I mean, as you said, it's actually like energy. If it's too much energy, you can burn yourself. If it's too little, probably you cannot develop. But at the same time, now there's many threats that we can speak of. We can speak of screen exposure. We can speak of addictions, as you said. So can we really use it safely? You mentioned a term like that is quite interesting. the tech diet. What do you mean by tech diet?
Sure. Yeah. So in my work, my first book was called The Dolphin Parent, and it was about a balanced approach to parenting. Don't be a jellyfish, meaning too permissive. Don't be a shark, meaning authoritarian. Be this balanced, authoritative, guiding, collaborative approach for teachers and parents. And that book was released almost 10 years ago. And around the world, when I would take Q&A from teachers or parents, almost the very first or second question was, how much screen time is okay? And then I realized I would find myself saying, well, 5 minutes of pornography or an addictive game is highly not okay. It's disruptive to the brain, whereas 1 hour of FaceTiming grandparents is wonderful. So I created a metaphor of the tech diet. I said, look, all of us understand food. We all know how to teach this to children in general. We know there is healthy food. We know there's junk food, a little bit too much sugar, and we know there's toxic food that we avoid. We can use the same idea, a familiar paradigm, and apply it to this most pressing issue of our time. So the tech diet has 3 different categories, just like food. There is healthy tech. So this is a tech we want to use in schools, tech that leads to social, emotional, or cognitive skills. So social skills, the connecting, collaboration, using, understanding how to do podcasts and Zoom calls, emotional regulation skills like breathing, mindfulness, gratitude journaling, counting your steps, checking your sleep. There's a lot of benefit for all of this on tech, and cognitive skills, coding, robotics, AI, using it to enhance our learning. So that's what we want to teach kids in the schools. We want to avoid the toxic tech, the tech that is cyberbullying, the addiction, the fear of missing out, plus hidden toxicity like prolonged blue light exposure, the posture even. You know, my middle son is 6'4" and he's crouched over all day. And we know that there's difficulties with the neck and posture. That's the toxic we want to avoid. And then in the middle is what's called the junk tech or the snack tech, just like junk food. We don't want too much. We don't want to just be consuming chips and candy, nor do we want kids scrolling mindlessly, social media, gaming, zoning out, online shopping, watching Netflix in the school system. So just like food, avoid the toxic, limit and monitor the sugar, and consume the 3 aspects of healthy tech.
So, but Dr. Kang, how are we actually doing? What do you think? Because you see, it's true. I mean, yes, technology brings lots of good things. And I mean, the very fact that I can now interview you, you're in Vancouver, I'm in Porto, in Portugal. So, I mean, it's an amazing invention that we can use for good. But how are we as parents, as educators, doing with this? Because sometimes, you know, I have a feel that we are actually pushing for it because we want our kids to be prepared for the 21st century, for the new jobs. We want them to be aware, to be kind of fully integrated in this society that would be full of digitalism, let's call it this way, or digital tools. Yet, is this really good for them? Because, you know, I do remember that the years when I was a child where there was no internet. And, well, I think I turned out pretty well.
I went to medical school before internet. And so, well, how are we doing? Well, I think we need to understand the 2 aspects of the debate of technology in schools. On one hand, there are those who are saying, this is part of the 21st century world. We need it, period. And those that say, what about equity? What about students who can't afford an iPad? The phones are cheap. And then what about my kid who might have life-threatening allergies, of which 2 of my 3s have, and I need to call them. So, you know, there's some, you know, important arguments that need to be considered. However, when you look at the other side, when you look at the data, the science, that technology that is not for educational purposes, so unregulated technology, we know is a distraction to learning, reduces attention, reduces curiosity and critical thinking. We know that having cell phones in lunchrooms and hallways and classrooms impedes a sense of connection, community, and belonging, social skills, which are an important part of development. And we know that tech is linked to anxiety, depression, addictions. Blue light exposure is linked to stress on the eyes, myopia, nearsightedness, posture issues, obesity, cyberbullying, increasing in a reduction of empathy. So this is not debatable anymore. The science is very, very clear. Countries around the world, UK just announced restrictions on cell phones. Here in Canada, our province just did a bell-to-bell restrictions for cell phones in schools that each district can roll out as they see fit. So this is a wave. I think it came so fast. We wanted to adopt the new tech without really thinking through the pros and cons. And it is not a black and white argument. That's really important. Whenever we go good or bad, we miss the important in between, which is the healthy tech is good. Yes to healthy tech in schools, no to toxic tech in schools. And just like we limit the vending machines with sugar and snacks, and we got rid of all the sodas, we can do the same and limit and monitor the junk tech.
I can give you an example from Europe as well, because you mentioned your region in Canada, you mentioned the UK, but also on the continent. I know that Denmark, for instance, Denmark was one of those countries that have digitalized education, like I think one of the soonest and to greatest extent. And they, since a couple of years, they actually created a day without digital or without technology, just because they realized they went too far with it. Now, I wanted to talk about, again, I'm going to play this devil advocate. I think this is the, let's say, the most interactive way, although I see that you have a very pragmatic view and it's a balanced view, which I very much enjoy. Now, can you tell me how can we actually also, I don't know if this is your field of specialization, but about the data. I mean, we have, if we indeed are going to use educational technologies, technology in general, technology for learning, this of course implies data and data about cognitive skills, cognitive abilities, and learning abilities of every child. Is this a sensitive data? I think, well, everybody can agree that it is, because this is almost like a medical data of every child. How can we really protect from any kind of leakage of such a data? Or how do we approach this?
So you're talking about data and privacy issues.
Yeah.
I think that makes the idea of restricting cell phones technology even more important, right? Because now, the first iteration of AI was called a race to the bottom of the brainstem by the industry. It was about attracting attention and keeping it. Now, the industry is calling the next iteration of AI, ChatGPT, a race to intimacy. What is happening here is the currency is relationships. So that is part of data. And I'll give you an example of Snapchat. Snapchat now has a bot. My daughter is 13. Her name is Gia. If she had Snapchat, she could have this bot. This bot's name is Nelly. Nelly would know what she does every day. Volleyball, she has certain friends. Nelly will now start talking to Gia about how was your volleyball game? What happened? Did you like this movie? In a voice, in content and topics that are really appealing to her. So now you are, when we talk about, so now we have privacy in the sense your personality is out there, and these bots are trying to engage young people in relationships. I think the big example of this is Andrew Tate, who I don't like giving oxygen to, but he has 14 billion views. He's resonating with young boys. There's only 7 billion people on the planet. And they're looking to him as a role model instead of their teachers, instead of their fathers or uncles, etc. So that's kind of a bigger picture. I think also what you're talking about is, all of the checks and balances in terms of having Wi-Fi protection in the schools, not having someone hack into your Zoom meeting, which was happening in the pandemic. So data and security is going to be an ongoing issue, but on an individual level, that's why we need digital literacy in schools. We need to teach children how to use healthy tech. not just give them a phone and expect them to figure it out. This is an extremely powerful device.
Yeah, it's like I'm just worried that maybe as educators, because you see, for us educators, for teachers, for school leaders, for parents, this digital world is something unknown. It's something that we are learning. I mean, myself, I'm 37 years old. I am a digital nomad. I like you just said, just use something that I have no idea what is it. You named, was it Snapchat or whatever that is?
Snapchat, yeah.
I have no idea what that is. And well, I must admit I have no idea. But so the question is, can we really catch up with it? Because you see, I mean, I'm also a teacher of innovation, and sometimes what I do see is that um, those streams that are actually supported with funding and are actually extremely creative, because one thing that we can certainly agree on is that everything that is digital, everything that is tech related, these are really clever people, extremely creative, and they actually transform our world for better. But at the same time, us as educators, being the ones that are there to protect the kids, can we really be on top of this? Or is it that we're going to always be
Yeah.
behind?
Yeah, Daniel, I would say a couple things to that. I agree. The tech industry are some of the most creative minds. It is a renaissance. However, we cannot deny that the tech industry use the most sophisticated neuroscience um, in something called persuasive design to accomplish that race to the bottom of the brainstem, which was that first iteration. Now, not everyone had the intent to ruin the world. Of course not. They were like any other entrepreneurs and they wanted to sell their products and they found a way to do it. Since then, we've been seeing those that are, I would say, more ethically designing tech and those that continue with the same knowledge that it can have direct harm, particularly to the young brain. We have to factor in the brain under the age of 25 is not myelinated. I'm going to grab my brain here. So this human brain is very, very special because this top layer, the white matter, the final development, we are Homo sapiens. Sapien means thinking. We have a neocortex. This is not developed until 25. Young people are more driven to the dopamine manipulation. They're more driven to take risks, seek peer admiration, and novelty seeking. Those are the three unique aspects of the young brain. All three are make young people vulnerable to the junk aspect, that snack food, and the toxic aspects of tech. Now, there's plenty of healthy stuff that can be done with tech. Again, it has to be very clear. It's not an anti-tech message. It is a healthy tech message. And we cannot expect young people to self-regulate. It is impossible. I'm 51. I can't self-regulate. They're designed way too better, way too smart for all of us. So we certainly can't expect young people to do it. So really that's what we're at. And I think giving the teachers and educators the science of the human brain with the message of a tech diet, now it makes logical sense and they can really move forward with 21st century teaching, or what we call future ready teaching. There's three key skills that all young people need based on science, and we can use tech to get to those skills.
Yeah, I want to come back to this question, which I already asked you a little bit about how are we really doing with it? Because I think I would really like to elaborate on this. I mean, I think you have a very balanced approach to the idea of tech. And again, I'm gonna be the bad guy here. I'm gonna ask you a question. I will try to at least pretend I'm against it. But in general, so how are we really doing this? Look, in recent years, like just last year, we had the PISA results. PISA is like an OECD program of international student assessment, and Canada did pretty well. Hooray. Europe did much worse. Americans did horrible. I mean, we Europeans are very happy to hear that at least we did better than the Americans. But in general, what we see is that there is a downsiding trend. And of course, we can blame COVID for it because we had some schools closures and everything was really different. At the same time, the schools for 2 years became very digital. Of course, it was horrible because we just moved the real classrooms into digital world, so it doesn't really work. It was not at all blended learning. It was simply bringing the teachers that are used to teach in front of the classroom in the classroom and force them to teach online. So that's not teaching. But at the same time, what I do see is, do we actually, if we would look at the social interaction of our kids, in my view, abusive usage of even the grown-ups of cell phones, of social media, can we really say that we can control this? And I would even say that there's a lot of work to be done, even among the grown-ups, with respect to the healthy usage of the internet, of technology. How could we, so coming to the question, how could we really make it happen? What can be done in order to teach the kids, but I think also the grown-ups who kind of are totally exposed to it, to use technology in a moderate or controllable way?
Right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned PISA scores. I did want to just quote two studies that we recently found, and one was Spain. And Spain, actually, there was 2 regions in Spain that started mobile phone bans in 2015, and they looked at PISA scores and bullying incidents, and they found that the Galician region in Spain, they found that their learning improved in math by 0.6 to 0.8 years, and in science, 0.72 years. So almost a full year of better learning in math and science, with the restrictions and limits on cell phones. That's one. And then the Belgium study concluded a significant negative relationship between smartphone use, exam scores, and other educational outcomes. So how are we doing? We're not doing great, because I'm going to, and what can we do? I'm going to ground that answer in 2 very important neuroscience concepts. And I'm going to credit Dr. Dan Siegel for these. These are rhymes, and everyone likes rhymes. So the first rhyme is: neurons that fire together, wire together. For most humans on the planet, we are wiring and firing our introduction to technology with the junk food, the dopamine, the sugar. Just like actual real food, kids are getting way too much sugar early in life, and they are wiring and firing nutrition with sugar, and same with tech. So kids are being introduced with tech via things like YouTube, video gaming, and even social media, right? So young kids, as young as 3, I remember my daughter would watch these GIFs being opened, and they're glued to the screens. So wiring, what neurons that fire together, wire together, we need to delay the introduction of technology until 3 key critical skills are developed. That is in-person social skills, in-person time management skills, and in-person self-regulation skills, coping skills. In an ideal world, you want a young person to have those mastered before you even introduce tech, because otherwise they're going to wire and fire that with all of those with tech. So we want to avoid that. The second rhyme is: where focus goes, neurons grow. Where focus goes, neurons grow. So we want to focus on the healthy tech. We want to focus on competencies in using tech for communication, collaboration, community activism, using it for self-regulation, mindfulness, breathing, using it for health and wellness, using it for coding, robotics, AI that's going to find the cure for cancer and climate change. So with those 2 concepts, now we have a understanding of how we can move forward into the 22nd century using technology for us, for our well-being, our advancement, not the tech industry using us, or having the fire run rampant and burn us down.
But can we actually show this to the parents somehow? Is there anything that we can train them about? Do you make this distinction clear? This is good tech, this is bad tech. I mean, you mentioned here about the diet. You know, one thing that well, the schools should do is to show the parents how you should actually feed your kids. And the thing is that, I mean, this is an entire different topic about parenting and the fact that there's, I mean, lots of parents that have, like, they find themselves in this situation. Okay, now we live in this world, right? The world is full of tech. Everybody has it. It's also it's a social issue. So every other kid have a cell phone. And what do I do now? So how should parents approach this then? And
Yeah, I'm just
any way we can teach them, because it's also, you know, it's also about teaching them.
right. Daniel, is it okay I share my screen and show you a slide of the visual of what it
Please
looks
do it.
like? Because I think it's really important to be able to see what the tech diet looks like. So here it is in front of you. I did a interview on BBC World News, and they used this slide. And really, parents know how to use food as an example, right? We've been teaching food for millions of years. So let's use the same familiar example. Let's teach children, parents and educators, to say no toxic tech. We do not need technology that leads to bullying or the hidden stress of prolonged blue light. We want blue light glasses at night. Let's teach kids not to compare themselves with others, or that fear of missing out, which we know is highly toxic to the human brain. Looking over here, let's limit and monitor the junk food tech. Nothing wrong with gaming and social media, but it's the mindlessness, the zoning out, the sugar, the eating a bag of chips. And let's get young people to consume tech that leads to self-care. This is endorphin. Tech that leads to connection. This is oxytocin. And tech that leads to creativity. This is actually serotonin. All of this is grounded in the science of the human brain. And in this episode, I will send you show notes, links to this image that can be downloaded. We also have free lesson plans that explain the neurons that fire together, wire together concept, and how to unwind it. And sorry, I'm going to just go back here, that we can help young people understand that we can metabolize tech just like we metabolize food. We're going to have to be repetitive. We're going to have to do it multiple ways. We're going to have to do it as parents and educators. We're going to have to go back and remember that teenagers tend to want to move away from our guidance, and that's okay. They're going to go eat some junk food, but if we plant the seeds early, those neural trails will be established. So it really has to be a comprehensive approach. Parents have to be involved, and the school system must be involved. And really, I can't overestimate it is the greatest resource. And I'm going to quote Daniel Levitin, who endorsed my book, but I loved how he said it. We must protect our most important resource, the next generation of human brains. I can't think of a more important topic right now in the schools.
I think this should be the ending point of this talk, really. Dr. Kang, thank you very much for all your time. I mean, I think, yeah, it's really is the greatest challenge that we have in front of us. I would even add to it, we have to be able to protect and develop the kids that we have for this sake. So so thanks a lot again for all your comments or your ideas. To our viewers, tell us what you think about this. Can we actually safely use tech? And I mean, Dr. Kang says we can. So that's a good news. How do you do that? How do you approach this? If you're parents, what do you do with the tech? Do you let your kids use it? To what extent? What's your approach? What's your opinion? Share it with us. And if you like what you see, subscribe the channel, comment, and well, stay involved. And for now, Thanks a lot, and see you in the next episode.
Bye. Take care.